Hi, my name is Jeff Soretsky, and I'm a systems consultant with Dell Software. Today I'm going to show you how to install and configure SharePlex. SharePlex is a solution to replicate data. In this video, we'll be focusing on Oracle-to-Oracle replication. There are 5 steps to install and configure SharePlex. First, we need to download the software from our website. Next, we'll install the software. The very next step will be to create a configuration file. Once we do that, we activate the configuration file, and then we'll validate replication. In order to download the software, using your favorite browser, go to software.dell.com. From there, you can select Products, click on Information Management, and then all the way to the right, you'll see SharePlex. If you scroll down, you can download the free trial. Once here, you can read and accept the license agreement. And now you can scroll down and see the current version of SharePlex with specific to the operating system and Oracle version. Simply select the version that you need and download it and save it. So now we're going to install the SharePlex binaries onto our source server. We'll first log in as the Oracle OS user and locate the file that we just downloaded. We'll extract this tar file using the tar xvf command. And once we do that, we'll get the result, which is a TPM file. This file is a self-unpacking executable, which will guide us through the installation. So once the file is unpacked, our very first question will be to enter the product directory location. And this will house the executables for SharePlex. For our installation, we're going to use the home Oracle Splex prod directory. Next, we're going to enter the variable data directory location. And this will be home Oracle Splex var. This will house the dynamic transient data that SharePlex uses. The very next question here is to specify the SharePlex admin group. And by default, you'll see the Oracle group is selected. And we are actually going to use that as our default. And the SID that corresponds to our installation is selected by default as ORLI10. We'll hit Enter to make that selection. And then the installation queries the ORTAB file corresponding to that Oracle SID. And we're just verifying that that is in fact correct by simply hitting Enter. The very next question here will be to enter the TCP IP port for SharePlex. So SharePlex communicates to another server using a specific TCP IP port. You can specify that or just accept the default, which in our case will be 2100. Now we can verify all the selections we just made by simply hitting Enter or proceeding with this installation, yes. The product is now being installed onto our server. And in order to verify that we have access to this product, we can enter a license key. And we do have a license key, so we're going to hit Enter for yes. And we'll paste in our license key right here. And the customer name in this case will be trial version. Installation on our source server has been successful. Now we're going to prepare the Oracle database for SharePlex by installing a SharePlex user. And that's done through the Aura Setup program, which is located in the Splex prod bin directory. Basically, it's the base directory where you installed SharePlex prod bin. So let's run that. The very first question here is, will SharePlex install be using a bequeath connection. So by default, yes is selected, and that implies that we're not going to be using SQLnet, but the database is local on our system. The only reason why we'd want to select no for using a SQLnet connection is if we were running on a cluster or we were connecting to a multi-tenant database. So let's hit enter for yes. So the Oracle SID that corresponds to our installation on the source is ORLI10. And we'll just simply hit enter. Here, now we're going to need to supply a Dba user in order to create the new SharePlex user. And we'll simply use system, but it could be really any user that is a member of the Dba role. So once verified, we get asked, would we like to create a new user? And the answer is yes. By default, the user is SPLEX with the password of SPLEX. If we want to make that selection, we can simply hit enter, or we can enter our own user and password, depending on what your standards are. So now the user's created, we're going to enter the default table space, which is users in this case, but you can select any table space that you want. And the temporary table space by SharePlex is going to be temp. Now, if you wish to separate or segregate tables and indexes, you do have that choice at this point in time, but I'm simply going to select users. And will this current setup be with ORLI10 being used as a source? And in fact, that is the case. So we're just going to hit enter. Now the SharePlex product is fully installed on the source machine. So we've completed the installation on the source. You need to do the exact installation on the target machine. Now our next step will be to create the configuration file and activate it. So now that we've fully installed SharePlex on both the source and the target, we'll need to start SharePlex up. And we start SharePlex up using the spcop program, which is located under where we installed SharePlex, the product directory, and the bin directory. So notice when we start SharePlex up, we use the ampersand sign. This will ensure that SharePlex runs in the background. Now, once SharePlex is up and running, we'll need to interact with it, and we use the command line interface denoted by the program sp_ctrl. Once in the command line interface, we can now define what we want to replicate, and we do that through creation of a config file. And that config file will define what tables or schemas that we wish to replicate. So let's create a config file called test1. And we'll type our configuration file as so. Now, please note the syntax, data source :o.sid. This is the SID of our source. Underneath, we have the source table, the target table, and the routing map. Also note there is a syntax for schema replication using a wildcard. Today we're just showing replication on one table. So once that's saved, we can verify the config file and see that our syntax is valid. So from here, we can activate the config file. And once that's done, we can show the config. And a little typo here. And see that our table is in replication. Now let's validate that replication is in fact working. And if you recall from the config file, we have the emp table in the config, which is comprised of the employee number and the employee name. So if we do a select from the emp table, we'll see that it is empty. At this point, let's insert a row into it, and we'll commit. On the target machine, let's verify that the table is in fact populated. So we can see that the row was empty, but now if we do that same select, we'll see that we have the row. This concludes our brief demonstration of installing and configuring SharePlex. To get more information, please visit us at the following address.